I have to say, I don't know how to characterize them unless I do compare. Right now, students are awfully motivated by grades, and we just have to accept that because we've created it. And then try to work around that, try to understand why, and so on. So, and I don't mean, quote, grade grubbing. I just mean that they have careers that are at stake depending on the GPA that a student receives. I think students are, I said this to a group of business majors that I have this term. They're taking a literature class for a cluster. And I told them they probably shouldn't quote me, that the education they're getting as students is so much more sophisticated as business students than the education I had. We had no computers. It was rather simple. And I think students, not just those business students, but students period, are overloaded with information. And I think they do that because they've grown up with it. They've grown up with computers the way we had typewriters, that they're used to that. I'm not sure I'm quite used to that. I think sometimes, though, students need, while they're, I think, more ready to tackle different subjects intellectually, what I've found, and I don't know if this is everywhere or just here, some of the basic assumptions that we used to have about the classroom, I now have to write on my syllabus, don't leave during the class, please, it's distracting. And they honor it, they're polite. So that, you know, the assumptions have changed about communication and decorum and things like that.
Why do you think those have changed? Do you have any idea why you think that's changed?
No, well, you're talking about 24 years of change.
Exactly.
I think the teacher has become less an authority figure in the classroom, and that's probably good. But once you then separate them into groups and you encourage discussion, then the other kind of follows. Well, I just won't interrupt anybody. I think I'll just head out for a few minutes to the restroom. And so I don't care for that, and they honor it. Students generally are a little more relaxed in their language. And if you teach 20th century American literature, which is full of the vernacular, shall we say, I always have to tell them, now don't respond in kind, please. You know, so I have to deal with levels of language. You do too, probably. What's appropriate in a response. And I try to do that rather humorously sometimes, but no, UD students, well, I teach a variety of them. If you teach in gen ed classes, you get, and I like that, you teach students of all majors. And other than certain ways of thinking, business majors want an answer from Antigone, who was right, Creon or Antigone, then I don't see that they're different. And I have heard that our students are present themselves much better in the classroom than many other universities when I talk with colleagues. So. I don't know that I've changed a whole lot in my attitudes. I still expect similar competencies from students. We all had to change with the advent of computers. Then we also, and I don't know what I think about that. I mean, I think it's wonderful now I can turn around with a student sitting in my office and find something immediately. That's wonderful. It used to take a week sometimes to do that. In terms of theory that's come into the classroom since 1980, that's changed that lecture approach. I think, particularly in high school, where students get a little squirrely anyway, if you're a lecturer and that authority figure, so to speak, then the interaction's a little bit different. So I don't do that much group work. I try to. I'm not sure I'm very good at group work. I do know that once I took a Myers-Briggs test and realized that teachers are so theoretical and don't give examples, and students are not, and need visuals, that I started using the board more, which I hate to do. I don't like using a board. It seems like a time waster, but it certainly helps. I don't know. I think I had a comeuppance in 1980 from my lectures when I realized one day that what I had said in that half hour and what I saw written in their notebooks were two different subjects almost, that wasn't working. So the theory, both composition theory and literary theory, and emphasis on approaches to teaching, I think affected all of us. So I suppose I've changed in that respect. Probably lightened up a little bit. Don't work much on keeping on their level, as you know, in terms of music and references like that. So I needed to do a little more of that, and I just haven't. But probably become more student-oriented.
When you
actually, I think it was 78 when I first started teaching part-time. And I was hired to teach the business classes, business writing classes, given my background, I suppose. And we were in Miriam Hall. All those classes were in Miriam Hall, mostly in the evening. Then when I came in 1980, I was teaching 3 classes, and I was hired to develop an internship and writing program for the department. We were all on, well, I was on the 8th floor of Miriam, and I think English department had 7th and 8th. That was nice because they had a room down there that history and philosophy, we gathered there. So we started out there, and we remained there until, what, 10, 11 years ago, Humanities Building. And that was I think it was a real change there in terms of office space. It's beautiful. But there was something about being in that old Miriam Hall and having to walk sometimes when those elevators didn't work and running into people that I liked. So I was there a good 12 years maybe, and then over here the rest of the time. Well, not to take myself too seriously, you have to get a real shell there. So given that, then probably to make sure that students understand what I'm saying. They don't always appreciate it. And that varies from writing to literature, probably to you too. I have different goals for writing. I'm probably far more demanding in my writing classes than I am in literature classes, because those, I can see results there. I think probably if students become better, however we define in that classroom better at a skill, if it's writing, that's my goal. I think this recent group of students needs to work a little bit on becoming less sensitive to criticism. Now that's changed a little bit over the years, and I don't necessarily mean if you're sarcastic. I mean just honest, open criticism. Sometimes that's my goal, is to have them understand that the criticism isn't, I'm not attacking the fiber of their being. I'm just trying to get them to succeed at whatever it is. Literature's a little different, and I don't know about how successful I am in literature. Teaching literature. What I think I see most is when I teach the literature they don't know. African American literature, American ethnic literature, Native American, Chicano literature. Then it's clear when they have an understanding of that. It's not so clear sometimes when they study other literatures. So probably one of my goals would be that they broaden in terms of literature, that they broaden their interest, their tolerance for what American literature is. And that's where I'm not so sure I succeed. In a classroom, you know, we sound very tolerant and understanding, and I don't know the carryover. I don't know, but that would be my goal, is that they learn enough through that to then connect and apply in their own lives. Well, the places where I've taught at the college level are very different, because I taught at Central State on a federal grant one year. And I taught there in the 70s, when the major issue was whether students had a right to their own language, and in that case that was black dialect. So that was the rage in the institution, and white teachers there was a racial issue there that I've not found anywhere else. I think that kind of piqued, well, my interest was piqued before in African American literature, but that kind of solidified it. So that was different. Of course, teaching at a community college is very different. You're teaching older students, mostly non-traditional, at least the ones I taught. So when I came to UD, now I'm teaching traditional white Catholic students for the most part, and I would guess in 1980, that's changed a lot. We've diversified somewhat. So in that respect, it was very different. I can remember as late as 1990 being on a dean's search committee, and the term Marianist tradition, and finally I said, now could we clarify? And I was met with a silence for a little while, because I think I was supposed to know what that was. But I think I did know what that was. I mean, that combination of service, and there is something about this community, and I don't know that I even want to put my finger on what it is, but I feel very much a part of that. So that the issue that, I don't know about family, I don't know if I want to go there, but community is probably the biggest difference from my teaching other places. You have to like students. You have to like young people. If you don't like young people, then you need to find another career. Probably be confident and make sure that you know your discipline. And there are places here, if you don't, lots of places like this where you can get up to snuff. Get involved. I don't know about mentoring. We say that word, and I'm not sure I've been actively involved in it, but I think that's a good process to do. When I came here, for example, I didn't know my way around, and I can remember Bud Cochran asking me one day if I needed anything, and he gave me all his everything, his syllabi, his books he used, and then he did something else that worried me a little bit. He brought roses one day. Now that's on the positive side. The other side is, he said, well, that's the last you'll see of those. And I thought, well, that's all I need. And he said, no, it's that the bush is getting old. And I think I told you this. And when it gets old and the flowers aren't so pretty, you just cut it down. And I thought at that point I wasn't going to last here. I wasn't going to grow old here. But he was very helpful in the department, as others were. So there's a tendency, I think, to be, would you say, as a new teacher, maybe a little isolated, and until you get to know people, you don't necessarily want to share your ignorance about things. So to overcome that, to get involved in all these interdisciplinary things, I think is wonderful. You know, the things that I do on campus involve many different kinds of people here. Faculty, I've team taught, I team teach in the MBA program. Learning in retirement's wonderful. If you ever want to get shocked back to really being enthusiastic about teaching, you should teach those folks over there. ISAP program, study abroad. I would say get involved as much as you can in library committees. You meet people from across campus. And young people who are coming in, you may have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 young people in a department. That's where you get involved in those other activities and committees. That's where you're going to meet the young people. So overcoming kind of a self-consciousness about being new, sharing research with people, collaborating, all of those things. But